with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this second segment, which is going to be talking about the NBA quarterfinals in the NBA Cup. And like I said before, these games were Eastern Conference, Western Conference, respectively. So we might as well go ahead and cover up that is not who played. There we go. We might as well go ahead and cover up the Eastern Conference and their matchup between Ju Pau Gasol is in the chat. How's it going? Just talking about the NBA Cup right now, and the Bucks matched up against the Orlando Magic. This was the first matchup for the Eastern Conference and the first game of the NBA quarterfinals for this season. It's really difficult because I don't know if I should call it NBA Cup quarterfinals or just NBA quarterfinals, because it might confuse a couple of people where it's NBA quarterfinals, usually that's playoffs, right? As opposed to but I don't know. It's very confusing. It's very, very confusing. But I'm gonna call it the NBA Cup quarterfinals just because it avoids the confusion. But the Bucks, they ended up matching up against the Orlando Magic, and the Magic, they did not have Franz Wagner, they did not have Paolo Banchero, but they were still able to make this game rather competitive. In fact, it was so competitive that it took Damian Lillard hitting 2 clutch three-pointers to win the game in the end for Milwaukee. So I think that's a little bit, concerning on Milwaukee's side, because it's this game should never have been competitive. A team led by Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo going up against an Orlando Magic team that does not have its 2 best players, it should not be this competitive. But it was, and it ended up being competitive, and it ended up coming down to the wire. I don't know, what's going on in Milwaukee, but it is nothing good. The only players that have really been consistent for Milwaukee are Bobby Portis, Damian Lillard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know what it is, but Darvin Ham needs to stop playing Taurean Prince. I don't know what is wrong with Darvin Ham, but he just it's almost as if Darvin Ham has a crush on Taurean Prince, because he keeps giving him these minutes. He played 20 minutes in this game, and he dropped 0 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist, and 1 steal. How is a player like that worth playing for 20 minutes? It doesn't make sense to me. And he's it genuinely, this was a problem with him on the Lakers as well. And now it's a problem on the Bucks. This game should have never been competitive, especially when Giannis is dropping 37 points and Damian Lillard is dropping 28 points. Giannis went 15 for 24 from the field in this game, and Dame went 8 for 15, with Bobby Portis dropping 22 and going 9 for 11. Everyone else was disgusting. Chris Middleton played awful in this matchup, by the way. 0 for 2, 0 points in this game. It's not been looking good. He also came off the bench in this matchup, but also, he came off the bench over Taurean Prince. Are we serious right now? Seriously. But aside from complaining about Darvin Ham and his suggestions, as well as Doc Rivers and his coaching suggestions, the Bucks, they ended up winning. Darvin Ham is undefeated in the NBA in-season tournament and the NBA Cup. And now they're going to move on to play it's one of 2 teams. It's either going to be the Knicks or it's going to be the Hawks. We're going to have to see who wins in that matchup later on today. But this game should have never been close. This game shouldn't have been close if you're Milwaukee. Not having not having to worry about Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner, and still this game was really close. It really shows exactly where this Milwaukee Bucks team is. And it shows how talented the Orlando Magic really are as a team. Jalen Suggs ended the game with 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 steals. And there was also the center Goga Bitadze. Forgive me, Bitadze. That name is really weird to pronounce. Forgive me if I messed up that name, but I think it's Bitadze because the D and the Z is right next to each other. So that's what really messed me up. He ended the game with 12 points and 14 rebounds. Wendell Carter Jr., 8 points, 11 rebounds. Not really all that impressive, but the real scoring really came off of the bench with Anthony Black, who ended the game with 17 points, and there was also Mortis Wagner, who ended the game with 13 points, not to be confused with Mo Wagner. And, I mean, Jalen Suggs having 32 points in this matchup was very, very surprising. And the fact that so just imagine if only Franz Wagner was on this team. If Franz Wagner wasn't injured, I genuinely think that the Orlando Magic would have won in this matchup, and definitely would have thought that if Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner were in this game, they would have easily beaten the Bucks. No questions about it. I will say though, maybe Paolo Banchero would have had a little bit more of a difficult time scoring against Giannis Antetokounmpo, because we know how amazing Giannis is at defense, and they both play the power forward position. So that might have been the only mismatch there for the Orlando Magic if Paolo was playing, but aside from that, I think they would have won this matchup if he was. But next matchup was between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks. The Thunder ended up destroying the Mavericks 118-104, and the Thunder aren't even a healthy team. They still don't have Chet Holmgren after losing him to an injury that's most likely going to sideline him for 8 weeks. They still were able to win thanks to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander proving to everyone that he is most likely the best point guard in all of the NBA. He ended with 39 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists, and he scored more points than Kyrie Irving as well as Luka Doncic. Luka ended this game with 16 points and 11 rebounds. He shot absolutely horrible from the field, 5 for 15, and Kyrie ended with 17 points and 5 assists. And SGA completely outplayed both of those guards in this matchup. Anthony Manzano's in the chat. If Miami trade Jimmy Butler during the deadline with Jonathan Kuminga, perfect replacement. I mean, that does seem like a realistic option. I really don't think the Miami Heat are going to take Jonathan Kuminga, considering how they already have Bam Adebayo at center, and having running that small ball lineup with Jonathan Kuminga at the forward. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to work, but I mean, we'll see how it works in the end. I think they're going to have to add a couple more than just Jonathan Kuminga, maybe some draft picks and maybe another player than just Jonathan Kuminga in order to get Jimmy Butler. But again, would not be surprised if they end up landing him. I do know that it would be much smarter for the for the Miami Heat to trade Jimmy Butler and not do what the Los Angeles Clippers did, which was let Paul George walk and not acquire any sort of picks or acquire any sort of players in exchange for Paul George, because it seemed like Paul George was going to leave the Clippers after that year, and now it seems like Jimmy Butler is going to leave the Miami Heat. It would make much more sense for Miami to not let him walk and to trade him just to make sure that they can gain some sort of pieces. That's just me. That's the way I see it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But back to this Mavericks matchup between the Mavericks and the Thunder. SGA just completely outplayed Luka Doncic in this game. I see really no arguments for SGA not being the best point guard in the NBA. I mean, it makes sense for him to be the best point guard. It totally makes sense for him to be the best point guard in the NBA, just based off of this one performance. And it was incredible. The way that he played, the 39 points, it was also a rather efficient 39 points, 15 for 23 from the field. I mean, it's SGA. We all know what he does. Jalen Williams, he ended with 18 points, was 8 for 21. And, I mean, the rest of the team, they weren't all that. And think about it. This team wasn't playing at its best, and they were still able to win by double-digit points. And they're not even at their best because they were injured and they don't have Chet Holmgren. This Thunder team is going to be deadly in the future. And really, in my opinion, the biggest reason why they actually lost to the Dallas Mavericks in the postseason was because of their lack of experience. I mean, SGA was really the only player on the Thunder who looked like he wanted to play basketball, and he completely outplayed Luka Doncic in that matchup. So the lack of experience just got the better of OKC. Now that they're experienced, I don't really see many Western Conference teams that are going to be able to beat them. I mean, they're still winning even without Chet Holmgren, and they're doing it really, really easily. And it's amazing. Now, Klay Thompson was surprisingly the team's best scorer, and he ended the game going 7 for 14 and 5 for 10 from 3, a perfectly balanced 50%. Again, leading scorer. The fact that he was able to lead the team in scoring over Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic is a little bit concerning, but I mean, what can you do about it? So that's all that I can really say about these matchups. Again, very surprised with the outcome against the Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks. I knew the Bucks were going to win, but I didn't think the game was going to be as close as it was. And I'm also rather surprised with how poorly the Mavericks ended up playing in this NBA Cup quarterfinal. It should also be noted that these games do not count towards team record, if I remember correctly, and the only games that counted towards team record were the actual group play, and not these games. But regardless, they have to play extra games, which means they're going to most likely wear themselves out. Luckily, they're not going to play another game until probably the end of this week. I don't see them on the schedule for Friday, and I don't see them... they're going to play on Saturday, and that's basically it. That's going to be the next game that they end up playing. And again, they're not going to really play as many games throughout the week because, they don't want to... That would be a little bit unfair. I mean, imagine if you're the Thunder or even if you're the Knicks or the Hawks or something like that. You have to play the NBA Cup Quarterfinals later today, and then you have to go and play a back-to-back game that actually counts for the regular season. I think that's a little bit too straining for them, so it makes sense that they're not really going to be playing that. So that's all that I have to say on this second segment. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about Chris Paul passing up Jason Kidd. See what I did there with the passing? In assists, and I'll be right back after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.